Quote of the day. Some nights feel like unfinished songs. Half dream, half prayer, but even silence has a melody if you listen closely. By day the Lord directs his love, at night his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. Psalms chapter 42 verse 8, that is your quote of the day. Now let's get right into this video. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I have to apologize because this video should have been out way sooner, way earlier. It should have been out last night, honestly. But it was not my fault. It was Raw's fault. Raw put me to sleep, and this wasn't even a joke. I honest to God, fell asleep watching Raw, and I woke up the next day. And now I'm like, oh no, I gotta record this. So I'm recording it this morning, before I start doing stuff. So, like, I'm sorry, but Triple H, TKO, Raw, they put me to sleep. Oh my God, that's not even a joke. I honest to God fell asleep. I couldn't even make it through the whole show. It was so bad. They literally put me to sleep. And it was probably like the best night's sleep I've ever had. That's how boring and how trash this episode was. It put me straight to sleep. Oh God. And I wish I was joking or exaggerating, but I'm not. But anyway, I did end up watching the whole show, so don't worry. I am in tune and informed about everything that happened. So this week's episode of Raw was basically just an episode of recycled matches. Matches we've seen before, stories we've seen before, stories that should have ended that's continuing, matches that we should never see on TV again, just nonsense. Because like a lot of the matches, like the main event, we literally, I think last week or the week before that, we saw Jey Uso and LA Knight versus the Braun Brawns. You're telling me this week we saw Jim Uso and LA Knight versus the Braun Brawns. We got to see the other twin now. I'm like, dude, we've already seen this nonsense. I'm so tired of this main event. I'm so tired of the same people in the main event, the same match, the same finish, the same brawl segment. I'm over it. I just want something new at this point. And like I said, a lot of these matches and stories, I have absolutely no idea why they're still going on, why they're still continuing. They just need to be wrapped up at this point. They need to be like, put a period in the chapter. End it. It's over with. There's nothing left to be told, nothing left to see, and that's really bothering me because I hate tuning into WWE, SmackDown, or Raw every week and just seeing the same feud, the same rivalry, the same matches, just different faces in a different order. Not even different faces, just a different order of the tag team. I'm like, dude, come on, this is out of hand at this point. And then we even got to see the most irritating thing. The main event didn't bother me as much as the Penta versus Kofi Kingston match bothered me because I'm like, we had a whole arc of that, and Kofi Kingston and Penta literally faced off, and they basically squashed their beef. And that happened like a couple weeks ago. And I thought that whole rivalry was done after they did the New Day versus the War Raiders and Penta versus the New Day. I thought that was the end of it. And you're telling me this week I tune in and the first thing I'm seeing on my screen is Penta versus Kofi for no reason, no stakes, no nothing. I'm like, dude, we've already seen this. I thought this ended. What's left to be told? What's left to be seen? Just kill these stories. Give us some new stuff. This is lazy booking. The same thing week in, week out. Just like a different order of them. Like, come on, man. This was a straight recycled episode. And I'm not even going to make this video too long either. We're just going to dive right into it. And we're just going to talk about what happened. Because Raw wasted your time and I'm not going to do the same, okay? But anyhow, we started off this episode with a John Cena in-ring promo. The greatest of all time, the never seen 17, the last real champion, John Cena, Anyhow, John Cena gets in the ring and John Cena thanks the fans and says it's incredible being back on Raw, especially in Massachusetts. John Cena says, I have some longtime friends, family, and colleagues in attendance tonight, and tonight is really special. But anyhow, this Saturday at WrestlePalooza, Brock Lesnar wants to end the last real champion. And the crowd went on to cuss out Brock Lesnar through their chants. They absolutely tore that man apart. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, go for it, Anyhow, Cena then says, like every other time, Brock Lesnar made his shocking return, targeted me, and he challenges me to a match. But Cena says, I've never denied, I've never backed down, I've never declined. And that's because of the fans. And that's because I'm the last real champion. And that's what it means being the last real champion. The last real champion leaves this business better than they found it. And they give their all to this business, to this sport. Cena says that, yes, he is in fact afraid of Brock Lesnar, and that he might fail, he might not be able to beat Brock Lesnar, but he refuses to back down from the beast. John Cena says, I will never back down and I will never give up. I'm going to take the fight to the beast because that's what we do. John Cena says WrestlePalooza will be a final face-off between two generational titans. He says Saturday night at WrestlePalooza, Brock Lesnar, I'm ready for war. So if you want some, come get some. And that was basically the whole gist of that opening promo. And then after this, we immediately kicked into a snooze fest. It was Lyra Valkyria, our first match of the night. It was Lyra Valkyria versus Roxanne Perez. And this match was the literal definition of mid. The pacing was off, the in-ring action was boring, it was sloppy at times, and we saw a handful of botches. Like, this match was straight cheeks. Okay, this match was so mid. But anyway, Lyra ended up picking up the win by hitting her Nightwing finisher on Roxanne Perez. And after the match, she got jumped by Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, and Bayley made her a shocking return and ended up coming out to save Lyra Valkyria. And Bayley, apparently, I think she has a new theme song now, which seems pretty cool. And she's also battling with this like split character personality, like this split personality syndrome character, which is really interesting to me. I'm kind of here for it. It seems interesting. I like that she's getting something new at least, And she came out like for this match and she was hugging everybody. And I'm telling you, everybody was catching their hugs, okay? From the ring announcer to, the announcing team to the security guards, to the cameramen, fans in attendance, everybody was getting hugged. Referee, it was so funny, But anyhow, after this, we got to our second match of the night, and it was the irritating match I was talking about. It was the New Day Kofi Kingston versus Penta. And like I said, I still don't know why. We've seen this nonsense a million times at this point. Like, I literally thought this feud was over, and when I saw it on my screen again, I rolled my eyes back so hard that I swear I saw my own brain. Okay, because it doesn't make sense. I'm still trying to figure out what's left to see. What story's left to be told? Buddy, WWE is getting bold with recycling these matches at this point. WWE is getting bold, okay? This is out of hand. But anyhow, this was an absolutely pointless waste of time, except for one cool spot we got. And the cool spot we got was when Penta hit a springboard Mexican Destroyer on Kofi Kingston. That was really cool. But besides that, everything else was pointless and meaningless. And even the interferences and the shenanigans, the outside of the ring antics, even those things didn't matter. Even those weren't interesting in my opinion, because this match didn't matter, didn't need to happen. It was a waste of time. So even that didn't matter, But anyways, like I said, Penta ended up hitting a springboard Mexican Destroyer on Kofi Kingston, and he picked up the win. And that was the match. After this, we saw a backstage segment between Jim Uso and 4 letters, 1 word, Yeet Man Jey Uso, So Jim Uso was basically going off at Jey Uso for barking orders at him. So Jim Uso tells Jey Uso, yo, calm down with all that. You're ordering me around like I'm some sort of child. Last time I checked, you don't have an ULA file around your neck, so keep it in check. I'm not some sort of child you could boss around and order around. Last time I checked, you don't have an ULA file around your neck, so calm it down with that. And Jim Uso is not having any of that, because Jey Uso's having this whole character switch, he's just barking orders and stuff like that, and he's like, no, you can't do this, do that, you can't team up with this person. And Jim Uso's like, dude, I'm not a child. Stop barking me around. You don't have an ULA file around your neck, okay? So I was like, that was pretty interesting. That was a pretty cool shot, Anyhow, after this, we got an in-ring promo involving Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, CM Punk, AJ Lee, and yeah, that was that. So the whole thing was really honestly hit or miss. You either enjoyed it or hated it or found it mid. And I don't know what I found it. It was cold, lukewarm, then cold again. That's the best way I could describe this. It started off really bad because Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins absolutely bored me. Then CM Punk and AJ Lee came out. Then it got a little bit interesting, So cold, lukewarm, and then Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch started talking again. Cold again, So I don't know. It was hit or miss, honestly. But anyhow, to start off the promo segment, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, they basically came out first, and they were absolutely not talking about anything. So I'm not even going to waste time on this. So we're just going to get to the CM Punk and AJ Lee part, because Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, they weren't talking about anything. But I will be awarding Seth Rollins with a gold Yapper badge tonight, because he deserves it. This was a travesty what he did on the mic. Jesus Christ. But anyhow, AJ Lee and CM Punk ended up coming out right after Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch wrapped up blabbing and yapping about nothing. And CM Punk came out and he told Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins that I've made a career out of telling people what I think about them. And Punk accuses Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch of not being able to be on the same page and not being able to share the spotlight. And CM Punk then says that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins also share a singular brain cell, and apparently the same wardrobe too, which was pretty funny. Seth Rollins went on to tell CM Punk that CM Punk will regret getting AJ Lee involved in this feud, this rivalry, you know? This will be the biggest mistake CM Punk has ever made in his life. Then Becky Lynch went on to tell CM Punk that you got into a blind feud with a man because he took a bracelet with AJ Lee's name on it. How are you going to feel when you see me pummeling her face in? What are you going to think about it? What are you going to do about it, as a matter of fact? And I found that to be a pretty cold line, you know? I kind of like that. And AJ Lee went on to tell Becky Lynch, it's not my neck you should be worried about, Becky. I won 2 championships with this injured neck. What you should be worried about is the fact that even I don't know what I'll do next. You can't plan for something you can't predict, Becky. And then Seth Rollins went on to tell AJ Lee, this was a kind of a violation, I'm not going to lie to you. Seth Rollins went on to tell AJ Lee, your husband has a nasty habit of leaving when things disappoint him. After my wife beats you this Saturday, pray that CM Punk doesn't leave you too. I was like, damn, that's cold, okay? But then the funniest part of the segment happened, and I was rolling. My sides were hurting, man. The funniest thing, AJ Lee heard this, and she slapped the flavor, slapped the taste, slapped the ashiness off Seth Rollins' face, you know? She slapped the taste out of Seth Rollins' mouth. And then Seth Rollins eats it, you know, and he's fuming. Seth Rollins says, I would never put my hands on a lady, but thankfully I have someone that will. And he starts eyeing Becky Lynch and turning his head slowly, and Becky Lynch gets all wide-eyed and she starts stepping away. She's like, who, me? And I was like, come on. Come on, Becky. Dude, I would be so offended. I'm like, did you not just see what she did? I shouldn't even have to say anything. You should have been jumping her already. You should have been getting that lick back already. What are you talking about? Becky Lynch is like, who, me? I'm like, who else would it be, woman? Excuse me. Who else would it be, the man? I'm like, dude, come on. But anyhow, I found that to be really funny. Anyways, after this, a little antics happened, a little bit of shenanigans happened, you know. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins put on a show, and they distracted CM Punk and AJ Lee. And Becky Lynch was able to hit AJ Lee with a manhandle slam, and that was that, and that was the whole end of the segment. And Becky Lynch went on to slap CM Punk, you know, so basically, I guess they're even now. AJ Lee slaps Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch slaps CM Punk, I guess it's even now, whatever. Anyhow, after this, we got a backstage segment where it was the New Day basically committing attempted murder on Penta, because, dude, we heard like 15 steel chair shots. 15 chair shots, and Penta was just on the floor in agony. And I was like, dude, the amount of chairs I heard thrown, bam, bam, bam. Like, I heard 15 steel chair shots, man. And I'm not even exaggerating. It might have been even more, but I found that to be pretty entertaining. But the one thing I know this means is that this rivalry is still continuing. I'm like, I still don't know what the point of it is. Jesus Christ. Anyhow, after this, we got our third match, and it was El Grande Americano versus Dragon Lee. And this match was actually pretty decent in ring-wise, at least until we got interference from 3 different El Grande Americanos and AJ Styles. So, like, I'm like, come on, man. What even is this nonsense at this point? I'm sure it's entertaining to someone, but me personally, I can't really care too much about it. But anyhow, like I said, it was entertaining, at least until we saw interference from a second El Grande Americano, and then AJ Styles was forced to crawl under the ring for some reason. And then after that, we got a third El Grande Americano, which led El Grande Americano to picking up the win over Dragon Lee via submission. And then all 3 of the El Grande Americanos ended up hitting the Spider-Man pose on the entrance ramp, which was pretty funny, but that was about it. But anyhow, after this, we got another appearance from Bayley, but it was a backstage segment, you know, which was pretty cool. And this time we saw a completely different Bayley. You know, this Bayley was mean. She was rude. She was unhinged. She was screaming at nothing and at everything, at no one and at someone. We don't even know. She was talking to herself, and like we heard different voices, different tones, and I was like, Jesus. So like I said, she has like this, I guess, split personality syndrome type of character now. It's pretty interesting in my opinion. I'm all here for it. If they make this correctly, they book it correctly, this could be amazing for her. This is pretty cool. You know, one week she comes out hugging, and the next week she's trying to kill someone. Like, I'm here for it. Okay. But anyhow, that was that. After this, we got our 4th match of the night, and it was Stephanie Vauquer versus Kairi Sane. And let me just say, Asuka had this like cool looking makeup on her face this week, and I really enjoyed it. She had this like centipede makeup on her face, like a centipede painted on her face, like it was wrapped around her face and her neck, and I was like, that was pretty cool, you know. I noticed it, and I'm like, I'll give credit and I'll give props, you know. I really enjoyed it. It looked cool and unique, you know. So yeah, anyhow, I think it was a centipede anyway. I could be wrong, but I think it was a centipede. Sorry if I'm wrong and I misread whatever animal it was, but I think it was a centipede or a millipede, one of the peds. But anyhow, this match was actually pretty solid. It was a bit slow at times, but it was generally solid overall, you know. I enjoyed this match for what it was, and I don't really have too many complaints about it. Both Kairi Sane and Stephanie Valkyrie did their thing in the ring, honestly. The high flying moves and the heavy hitting moves were pretty enjoyable in my opinion. This match wasn't terrible by any means. It was pretty solid, like I said. But anyway, at the end of the match, Stephanie Valkyrie ended up hitting the SVB on Kairi Sane for the win, and that was that. And this was a clean match, no clean finish, no interference from anyone. And that was that, and that was the match. Stephanie Valkyrie hit an SVB on Kairi Sane, and she pinned her 1, 2, 3, and Stephanie Valkyrie wins. And we actually even got the contract signing, I believe. It was in a backstage segment, though. And Stephanie Valkyrie and Io Sky signed a contract, so they are officially facing off at WrestlePalooza now, I guess. So whatever. We finally got to our main event. And the main event was our fifth and final match of the night. And the main event was LA Knight and Jimmy Uso versus the Braun Brawns. And like I said, we got to see the other twin versus the same tag team, And like I said, dude, man, I am so sick and tired of seeing the same main event nonsense, the same match, the same nonsense finish, the same lineup, the same. Oh man, it's too much. It's getting out of hand, WWE's getting bold. Jesus, this is bad. This is bad, man. Give us something new. Give us something different. Let people breathe some fresh air, fresh matches, fresh rivalries, fresh faces, fresh feuds. Man, is that too much to ask for? Jesus Christ. But anyway, this match wasn't really anything too special. We saw a few alright spots here and there. Nothing too crazy, though. But anyway, the Braun Brawns ended up picking up the win over Jim Uso and LA Knight. And after the match, the Braun Brawns ended up jumping Jim Uso and LA Knight. And we got Mr. 4 letters, 1 word, Heat Man Jey Uso coming out for the save with a steel chair once again. And he comes out with the steel chair to save Jim Uso. Not LA Knight, honestly, but he came out to save his brother at the very least. And after he saved everyone, he was about to shake hands with LA Knight. They're trying to squash the beef. At least Jey Uso is. After he super kicked LA Knight last week, and LA Knight was like, as a matter of fact, sure. He shakes his hand for a second, and then Jey Uso eats the meanest looking BFT for his troubles. And LA Knight's like, no, we're not even. We're not equal. And this isn't over. Okay, you hit me with a super kick last week. Now we're even. And Jey Uso eats a mean looking BFT, and that's how the show ends. And that was that. And that was your whole Raw episode this week. Overall, I would rate this week a solid 3 out of 10. It was 3 hours of recycled matches, recycled promos, recycled nonsense, just recycled. Okay, this show was bad. It wasn't like, I don't know, like, let's say, here's how I could explain the show to you. If you haven't been watching Raw for the past year, because it's been the same thing for over a year now, right? If you haven't been watching Raw for the past year and this is the one single episode you tuned in on, I'm sure you'd enjoy what you're seeing, But me personally, I've been watching every episode every week. So like I've been seeing the same thing over and 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 over again. So that's why I'm like, dude, I'm rating it so low. If it was like I haven't watched Raw in a year and I tuned into this and this is what I saw, I like barely know the few drivers. I'm like, okay, this is pretty neat. This was pretty cool, it was pretty alright. But if you've been watching it week in, week out and you're seeing the same nonsense on the screen, the rating is bound to go down, okay? So like I said, a solid 3 out of 10. It was just recycled matches, recycled promos, and recycled nonsense. And yeah, nothing really changed. Nothing new happened. Nothing was furthered. No stories were furthered. Nothing. This was just a huge waste of time in my opinion. But anyhow, that was my review and my breakdown of this week's Raw. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for hearing me out. And thank you for being here. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to. And like, comment, and subscribe if you choose to. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm out. By the way, I don't know when this video will be uploaded. It should be uploaded tonight, so I apologize in advance if it's not. It should be today or tonight. It will definitely be today, on Tuesday. I just don't know at what time because I have a full day today, so like I don't know when I'll be able to edit it and stuff. And like I said, I usually record it and edit it right after I finish watching Raw or SmackDown, but Raw actually did put me to sleep, so I didn't have time to do that. So I'm sorry in advance if this comes out a little bit later than we're used to, but bear with me. Thank you for your patience and your understanding. But anyhow, I hope you all have an amazing day, amazing week, and amazing month. Thank you for showing up again, like I said, and thank you for being here. It means the world to me.